AMDG. This is the word that defines the Jesuits. But there are many other things that define us. But this is something which is really worth considering for today. Why? All of us, as we keep growing, we want to establish our identity. We want to be somebody. Is that bad? No, it is good. Look at Paul. He was having his identity. Look at Ignatius. He wanted to have his identity. But then God helps you to build up your identity, and then He transforms it to make it the identity that God had in mind for him. What happens to us when we try to establish our identity? We take the help of God, but we are the center. But then when God calls us, He transforms that and makes it God-centered identity. That's the difference. So, why have I told you this? Because look, what happened to Ignatius? He wanted to establish his identity and be someone great. My greater glory, I. And then when the cannonball hit his leg, there were just a few men with whom he was fighting against a big army from France that was coming into Spain. And he got these few fellows fired with courage to fight this big army. So they hit a cannonball, it came through the gate, the door, and hit his right leg. He was injured. With that, they all had to surrender. Now, that cannonball did something for him. Now, let's look at this. When you try to get your identity, there comes a time when God is telling you, hey, give this up and you follow what I'm saying to you. Not ready to do that. So, Paul had to be knocked off his horse while he was going to Damascus to get the Christians and imprison them and finish them off. He had the cannonball. Now what happens after the cannonball? He is convalescing. He is getting well. And his sister-in-law brought him 2 books. He wanted books of chivalry so that, he would hone his own ideas about becoming great. So when she gave him those books on Christ and the saints, he just flung them out of the window. He was so angry. He said, I don't want to read this. But she brought it and kept it there. And after some time, he started looking at them. And that brought about a change. You see, many of you are doing readings. And that's very important. Because when you read, there is an interaction with the author, God. So he had this encounter with God this way, and slowly his thinking began to change. If Francis of Assisi and Dominic could do these things for Christ, I will do greater things. So now see, he wanted to do all for himself, the greater things. Now he wants to compare himself and do greater than them for Christ. Now you can see how his whole thing is changing. He wanted to be a big soldier dressed up with a hat, the feather in the hat maybe, and dagger and sword. Now he takes up ordinary clothes of a beggar. He's dressed up in beggar's clothes and he walks begging for his food, relying on God, not on himself. This is what happens to this man after his conversion. And he goes and stays in a cave in Manresa for 11 months. There, going out and leaving his hair to grow, his nails to grow. Otherwise he was always well trim and prom and all that. Now, nothing. They call him a fool. They used to throw stones at him, saying he's a madman and all that. But he was mad in love with Jesus. And that is what happened. A transformation took place. He began to reform his life, fixing his gaze on Jesus, and became Christ-like. So now, What was he wanting now? He didn't want anything for his glory now. He wanted for the greater glory of Christ. See, this is the transformation that took place. And all Jesuits follow the same path. All of us have been touched some way by the Lord, and we begin to follow the same path in our own unique way, just as all of you are doing that. You're also doing that, not for your glory, but for the greater glory of God. But there's an attitude which is very important, and it has come to us in today's gospel. What is that attitude? To be detached. I told you some time back, to be attachedly detached and detachedly attached. What's the meaning of this? Attached to Christ, so that I can be detached from all created things. He is the creator. So I want to be attached only to the creator and not to the created things. So detached from them so that I'm attached to Christ. Now when I'm attached to Christ, you must also be careful, because you might make Christ in your own likeness and image. And so you must be detached from this every time, so that as you read the Gospels and contemplate, meditate, you begin to realize that He's calling you to give up everything that you held even of Him, so that you can worship Him in spirit and in truth. So you become free of all contents of seeing Him. Now, how do you understand this? If I say to you, your mother, immediately you'll be present to your mother. How are you present to her? In spirit. Do you see her? No. But she's present to you. You can smell her, you can hear her, you can listen to her, you can see her walk, but you can't see her, you're not seeing, but you can just be present. That's being in the spirit with her. Sometimes when we are sick or, at a certain time, all of a sudden you get a flashback on your life, and within few seconds, you have seen your entire life. That is how you become present in spirit. And in truth, what is the truth? The truth will make us free. We're very often falsely following our own path. We have been created for a particular reason. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans of fullness and of hope, to give you a future. This is what He has. We have also plans for ourselves, but they are not all for this. We think they are, but they are not. How will you know that? It's in our behavioral patterns. Are you reaching out to others? In that is our test. So, the readings I said to you, what is it saying to us? First, be detached. Detachedly attached, attachedly detached. So that you are internally free and you can plan out just as it is given there. How do you plan out? Many of us, if you have to plan out something, how do you do that? If you have a party, you begin to imagine that. This is what I have to do. And I must, say this is what I will do. But suppose you are not able to do it, then people will laugh at you, So you do it in such a way that you are certain that it will work. And you make things happen in that way. That is what is said. Suppose you are going to fight an army, you've got to be ready for a big army if you are just a few people. So he realized, I'm fighting a big army, but I'm doing it with just few people. Yes, but when you do it with God, there is a difference. That's what he's telling us. So the second reading is telling us beautifully, I'm doing it all for the greater glory of God, not for myself. And when that is the case, that is why the Jesuits were outstanding. They just went anywhere. Look at Francis Xavier. He just was ready to go at the moment he told him, can you go to India right now? The next day he was on his journey to India. So that was the kind of freedom he had. So, for the greater glory of God, but in order for us to do that, we must be internally free. That attitude is called indifference. not a cold indifference. Indifference means detachment, so that I am attached only to that which God is going to reveal to me. And when I do that, I am giving myself fully, which means the marges. I don't hold anything back, because the more I keep giving, the more I keep getting to be able to give more. So the more you give, the more you can give. It is in this way that St. Ignatius lived his life, and he fired everyone with enthusiasm. There are so many things I can keep telling you about him, but let us stop here. One of the things that he was most deeply in touch with, he is called the patron of spiritual life and the spiritual exercises. This is something that he has contributed to the world, to spirituality, and that is what I would like you to do. Be present to Jesus. And every day when I tell you to be in union with Jesus at those words, that is all from him. I've learnt it and I've summarized it in that way. And it is very easy to follow. But how many will follow? It depends. When you're ready, you will follow it. How will you follow it? In your own way, not as I have, but as you will be led by him. Because you are uniquely in Jesus, each one of us. And so let us hone this uniqueness in Jesus, and that's what I would like you to do now. Hold your hands like this. Keep your eyes closed. Relax. He's filling us from our toes to our head. Without his presence, we will die. He is life. And that life is experienced in the breath. So the minute you are present to your breath, you are present to God. You will have the same experience of what was told to us in the gospel reading today. You'll be internally free, and you'll be present at the level of the Spirit. And in truth, you will keep growing more and more, and experience life to the fullest in Jesus.